Fundamentals of Vedanta. The human personality comprises the divine spark of life called the Atman, with layers of matter enveloping it. The matter layers are the food sheath, the vital air sheath, the mental sheath, the intellectual sheath, and the bliss sheath. In the last video, we saw the nature and function of the food sheath and the vital air sheath. Now we shall study the mental sheath and the intellectual sheaths. Third, the mental sheath. The mind regulates and orders the vital air sheath. For example, when the mind is disturbed, the functions of pranas and the body are affected. Fourth, the intellectual sheath. The intellect controls the mental sheath. We discussed in detail about the mind and intellect in videos Kindle Life, Chapter 4, The Joy of Living, Chapter 7, Personality Rehabilitation, and Chapter 8, Mind and Man. A comparative study of the mind and intellect. To get a clear idea of what exactly the mind and intellect are, they have been differentiated in 5 ways. The multiple differentiation serves to give us a clear and comprehensive picture of the exact significance of the two terms and basic difference between them. 1a. The mind receives the external stimuli through sense organs and communicates the responses to the organs of action. B. Though the stimuli received through the 5 sense organs are distinct and different from one another, the mind is an integrated experience of them all. The intellect is the judging capacity, the discriminating and discerning faculty which examines and judges the stimuli received by the mind and communicates to the mind its decision on the type of responses to be executed. For example, in an office, a clerk can be compared to the mind and the officer as the intellect. The clerk receives the mail from outside and puts it up to the officer for decision. Then the clerk dispatches the mail outside for further action. Also, for example, if your foot accidentally steps on a lighted cigarette butt, the skin receives the heat stimuli and conveys it to the mind, who puts it up to the intellect for decision. The intellect, understanding the gravity of the situation through the mind, directs the muscles of the foot to contract to save the skin from getting burnt. Second, mind is a continuous flow of thoughts. Example, if each thought is likened to a bucket of water, then the mind may be compared to a river which is a constant flow of water. A bucket of water has no dynamism of its own, but when many buckets of water continuously flow, the river gathers dynamism and strength. Similarly, when thoughts flow continuously, they cause a lot of agitation and the mind becomes the most powerful tyrant of man. The intellect is the storehouse of all memory of one's past experiences and knowledge. This storehouse of experiences is the guiding factor in man's actions. The intellect can be compared with the banks of the river which determine its direction and course. 3. The mind is the seat of emotions and feelings. The intellect is the springboard of all ideas. 4. Another way to determine the difference of the mind and the intellect is to examine the realm in which they operate. The mind's capacity is limited to travel only to the realms known. The intellect's capacity is greater as, besides remaining in the realms known, can penetrate the realms unknown to investigate, contemplate, and comprehend new discoveries. 5. The mind and intellect also differ in their nature and quality. The mind is ever in a state of flux. It is always the doubting element. The thoughts are not sure. The intellect is the condition of the thoughts when they stabilize themselves to form a willed judgment. For example, when a man is indecisive as to whether he should become a businessman or a sportsman, his thoughts in that condition of doubt and indecision are called the mind. But when they make a firm decision, whatever it be, his thoughts acquire the status of an intellect. So, what is mind at one moment can be developed to an intellect at the next moment, and conversely, an intellect can be reduced to the status of a mind when its decision is broken by the suggestions of a more powerful intellect. These differentiations are meant for our clear understanding of the mind and intellect and are purely functional. In essence, both the mind and intellect are constituted of thoughts, and in the study of Vedanta, often either of them is used to indicate the other.